So get a load of this horseshit article that was written last month. Look at this. Kathleen Kennedy saved Star Wars. What a joke. What a joke of an article. I mean... oh, let's just read it. Kathleen Kennedy saved the Star Wars franchise, handpicked by George Lucas to run Lucasfilm after the studio was acquired by Disney in 2012. Kennedy had the gargantuan task of reviving one of the cinema's landmark properties. Star Wars has been a pop cultural staple since its debut in 1997, but the property had been dormant for many years following the release of Revenge of the Sith. What's more is that the Mouse had dropped $4 billion to get their hands on the Star Wars rights, meaning that they had big plans for the brand that went beyond just making a new trilogy in the Skywalker saga. Oh my god, first off, I've said this so many times, I had to say this so many times to so many people. Star Wars was not dormant, and it did not need reviving. It didn't. Star Wars was not fucking dead. Jeez, I'm sick of people saying that. It was not a dead franchise. There were so many pop culture references to Star Wars after Revenge of the Sith came out. Hell, even a fucking Disney film like Chicken Little, one of the characters made a Star Wars reference. And there's also like, Star Wars Family Guy and Robot Chicken Star Wars. So, oh my gosh. Stop shilling. It was not a dead franchise. Oh, fuck this. On paper, Kennedy read as an excellent choice to follow Lucas. A longtime collaborator of Steven Spielberg, Kennedy has been a top Hollywood producer for decades, and her resume includes some of the best films of all time. Of course, she was entering new territory, being the president of a studio and overseeing one of Hollywood's biggest franchises. But she was more than qualified for the job. Wait. If she's new to this, well, how does that make her qualified? And what exactly makes her qualified for the job? Could you be more specific? No, whatever. 6 years have passed since the Disney-Lucasfilm merger, and Kennedy's tenure had its various ups and downs. But as she prepares to lead the galaxy far, far away for 3 more years, it's safe to say she rescued Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy did not rescue shit. The Star Wars franchise... oh my... Ugh. Star Wars was almost dead before Disney. No, it wasn't. I already explained why. But let's hear what they have to say, what dumb crap they'll spew. Before we examine Kennedy's contributions to Star Wars, it's worth taking a look at where the franchise was before its time under the Disney umbrella. Or you're going to be spewing revisionist history. George Lucas released the prequel trilogy through 20th Century Fox between 1999 and 2005. That is true, yes. And everyone thought that it was. The story of Anakin Skywalker's rise, fall, and redemption had been told, and the saga came to a close. Yes, Star Wars existed in other mediums, the Clone Wars TV show, novels. That's true, it did, but it largely faded from the spotlight with no live action movies on the horizon. It didn't fade from the spotlight. Just because it had no movies doesn't mean it wasn't fading from popular culture. I'm sorry. I was choking on food. In a 2005 interview, Lucas even went so far as to say that there was no episode 7, and he was moving on to other projects. A lack of fresh material hurt. Oh my gosh. You even said that there was the Clone Wars and the novels. But you say there's no fresh new material? Yes, there fucking was. What about Legacy of the Force, Fate of the Jedi, Star Wars Legacy? Stuff that was continuing the story. Fresh material. But Star Wars' reputation was also sullied by the mixed reactions to the prequels. While the films definitely have their fair share of fans, and more have come to appreciate their merits in recent years. Yep. People like me, I almost became a prequel hater, to be honest. Like, I almost jumped on the bandwagon, but, you know, I actually watched the films and examined them, and I realized, these films are not as bad as people say. So anyway, that trilogy didn't resonate with the Zygest as strongly as the classic films. Criticism from vocal corners of the fan base is primarily what caused Lucas to retire from blockbuster filmmaking. As he felt it wasn't worth the trouble anymore. And those fucking assholes are the entire reason why Disney owns Star Wars. If they hadn't been such assholes to George Lucas, he wouldn't have sold the franchise. If Disney never agreed to buy Lucasfilm, chances are Star Wars is still a 6-film series, with many wondering what might have been if Lucas brought in other directors to make the prequels. Of course, Star Wars is here to stay, or now here to stay, and that's in large part because of Kennedy. Star Wars would have been here to stay even if George Lucas was still in charge. Hell, George Lucas was going to make a TV series called Star Wars Underworld that would have connected like Star Wars 1313. Kennedy's big decisions to bring Star Wars back. Star Wars was already there, already always with us, and was never brought back. So, oh, frick this. It's impossible to overstate the importance of Episode 7. Oh, whoa, what are they? Oh, this better not be going where I think it's going. Disney spent a small fortune on Lucasfilm. And there was plans in place for an entire slate of new Star Wars movies. Before The Force Awakens hit theaters, its fellow sequel trilogy installments had creative names in place, and spin-offs Rogue One and Solo were in the works. If Episode 7 failed to connect with the audiences, then it would have been a disaster. Few people understood that more than Kennedy. That's why she worked diligently to ensure the movie was as strong as it could be. She convinced initially hesitant J.J. Abrams, who successfully revived Star Trek, to commission a script rewrite when it was determined Michael Arndt's draft wasn't working. There was also a conscious effort in early marketing materials to distance Force Awakens from the prequels, embracing the tone and aesthetic of the original trilogy. And that's the problem. I've said this so many times, but that's the problem with current Star Wars. We need something different from the aesthetic of the original trilogy. If you keep copying it, it becomes boring. The end results speak for themselves. At the time of its release in December 2015, The Force Awakens was the most critically acclaimed series entry since The Empire Strikes Back, and hailed as a return to form. It also rewrote the box office records, grossing an astonishingly $936.6 million domestically, a figure that will likely never be topped, and more than $2 billion worldwide. While some were quick to point out the obvious parallels between The Force Awakens and A New Hope, the general consensus was that Star Wars was back and people were excited about the future. Well, that general consensus is fucking wrong. If The Force Awakens never came out, Star Wars would be still here with us, and the franchise would still be going on. Kennedy also controversially wiped out the old expanded universe, relabeling it as Legends, which is one of the worst fucking decisions to ever be done to Star Wars. It's true. That has literally split the Star Wars fandom. While supplemental materials like the books and comics aren't a requirement to understand the movies, yes, I can agree with that. The expanded universe is not necessary, and you don't have to read it, but it's good. The reboot made them more accessible for newcomers interested in reading more. Bullshit. Also, all mediums would be united under one canon. Oh my, creating numerous storytelling possibilities. Well, first off, there always was one canon. And don't be fooled by the hierarchy of canon. The different hierarchies weren't separate from each other. There was one unified canon before. Numerous storytelling possibilities? Well, it really didn't. It fucking didn't. I'm sorry. Kennedy's mistakes don't outweigh the good? Oh. However, Kennedy's track record isn't spotless, especially when it comes to hiring directors. The nadir of her tenure is definitely Solo, the first Star Wars movie to lose money at the box office. There's no denying Kennedy mismanaged that situation. Disney did too, allowing Phil Lord and Chris Miller to shoot a majority of the film before firing them over creative differences. Solo's budget had to be doubled in order to complete Ron Howard's reshoots, which ultimately doomed the spin-off commercially, although it generally got positive reviews of the critics. While not as severe, Kennedy had fallouts with Josh Trank, a Boba Fett anthology, and Colin Trevor, Episode 10. To a lesser extent, Gareth Edwards' choice didn't entirely work out. Tony Gilroy picked up a $5 million check to oversee an extensive Rogue One reshoot and fix the third act. Though Lord and Miller aside, these are fairly standard incidents for the film industry. Star Wars is hardly the only major franchise to part ways with directors, so it's difficult to blame Kennedy for most of these examples. The most vocal Last Jedi detractors believe Kennedy deserves to be ousted for dividing the fan base and making Star Wars discourse quite toxic. But odds are Episode 8 would have been polarizing no matter what Rian Johnson did. When it comes to something as massive as Star Wars, it's impossible to please everybody, and millions of viewers had their own theories brewing for 2 years. Even with the controversy, The Last Jedi still earned $1.3 billion worldwide and is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. By most metrics, it was a success. And I bet those critics on Rotten Tomatoes were paid. Kennedy's done more good for Star Wars than bad. What bullshit. Even with Solo falling short of financial expectations, Star Wars has had a fruitful run under Kennedy's watch. Not really, sorry. The first 4 films, out of the gate all received positive reviews and collectively earned more than $4.5 billion globally, surpassing Lucasfilm's sales price. Episode 9, hitting theaters December 2019, should be a massive box office hit and another proper cinematic event. Well, we don't know that, and good luck. It could bomb for all we know. Additionally, Kennedy has demonstrated she isn't afraid to take chances with Lucasfilm's prized possession. She signed off on Johnson's risky creative choices on The Last Jedi. Whether one agrees with them or not, it says a lot they didn't play it safe and pushed the tragic Rogue One ending that killed an entire cast of new characters. Yes, filmmakers have to play by Kennedy's rules to stick around, as Lord and Miller will tell you, but a lot of these movies she made are encouraging. In the last handful of years, Star Wars has also captured the imagination of a new generation of fans, giving the youngsters of today tales in a galaxy far, far away they can call their own. Most people will forget that crap, I can guarantee you. This ensures Star Wars won't become a relic of the past as we get further and further from the prequels, and instead continue to inspire viewers for years to come. Star Wars wouldn't have become a relic of the past. I'm sorry. Oh god, this is just a fucking dumb article. In fact, current Star Wars pretty much ensures, under Kathleen Kennedy, ensures that Star Wars will be a relic of the past. Because they're killing the franchise. I'm sorry, but that's a fact. Disney may be planning a slowdown after episode 9. But they have the Galaxy's Edge theme park opening, and Kennedy has the future stacked with more Star Wars content. Jon Favreau's live-action TV show, Johnson's new trilogy. I'm sorry, but Johnson's new trilogy is not happening. I'm sorry. David Benioff and D.B. Weiss's film series are all exciting propositions that will explore new characters and fresh stories outside the Skywalkers. The possibilities are endless. And it should be fun to see what Kennedy and the company come up with. Kennedy became an easy target after The Last Jedi's divisiveness with solo bombing, but she more than earned the right to stay in her current position. With her at the helm, the Star Wars Renaissance took off in a grand style, and despite a stumble here and there, it's gone about as good as anyone could have hoped. This is not a Star Wars Renaissance. Star Wars never fucking needed a renaissance. The only time that there was a Star Wars Renaissance was in the 90s, when the Thrawn trilogy came out. That brought back a Star Wars Renaissance that was even further heightened by the Phantom Menace. So stop with this bullcrap, this revisionist history. Kennedy is more than willing to make very tough calls if it means a better final product. Oh, which means she's committed to helping each film reach its full potential. Someone of her skill and expertise will certainly learn from her experiences, paving the way for greater things to come. Star Wars is lucky to have Kennedy. Fuck this article. Fuck it. No. Star Wars is incredibly unlucky to have Kennedy. I'm sorry. Well, what a piece of shit article. What do you people think of this? Leave me a comment and give me a like, and may we all live long and prosper. Have a good day or good evening wherever you are.